MK is a feminist writer, an activist, an engineer. She's founder and editor-in-chief of 4w and co-founder of Spinster.xyz. I'd like to say thank you on behalf of Women's Human Rights Campaign, MK, because you set up our website and you also talked to me particularly and other people, women, when we were starting to envisage what we might do with our website and international networking, and gave us some incredibly helpful advice and arranged our website and has been there helping all the way along. So on behalf of everyone at Women's Human Rights Campaign, thanks so much, MK. So a question I have for you is, what about Spinster? How did you work out how to do Spinster, and how's it going?
Yeah, so thank you for having me on today. It's really good to be back hanging out with you. WHRC is such a spot in my heart, and I'm really impressed with what the tech team has done with the website. They've really taken it and run with it. So congratulations to all of you and all that you've been doing. It's been amazing to watch your growth. But to answer the question, so how we got started with Spinster. So my partner and I, who's a man, created Spinster back in 2018 after I got fired from my job for writing about feminism. We had been thinking for a while that we were interested in starting a free software network for people to talk about gender identity where they weren't going to get banned for saying things like using sex-based pronouns for a man, etc. And we were watching at the same time, this is around when Megan Murphy got banned from Twitter, and we were just seeing left and right people getting banned. And at the same time, I had gotten fired from my job for writing about feminism. So that was really, I was just looking for something to do at that point because I had gotten fired. I didn't know what my next steps were. And so we decided that that was the perfect moment to act on this idea that we had had for a while to create Spinster as a server on the Fediverse that gives women a space to speak freely about gender identity without being censored and without also being isolated, because as part of the Fediverse, we're connected with thousands of other servers of people who disagree with us very much on all sorts of different topics. So you can get the message out a little bit in a way where you're not going to be censored.
That's so fantastic. And do you find that you're making contact with other tech engineers who are supportive of you, and now that there's a community of you, women and supportive men, or are you quite isolated in your views?
So we've definitely connected with people on the Fediverse who are supportive tech-wise, and we do have a core team of people who contribute open source code to the different software that makes Spinster run. We have a backend software called Pleroma that we use, and our front-end software is called Soapbox FE, and both of those are now contributed to by the larger Fediverse community. We didn't create Pleroma, we are contributors to Pleroma. And so we're really now part of this larger tech community that is both men and women, but Spinster itself also has attracted women who are interested in technology, women who just contribute in ways like, for example, when they see a bug happening on Spinster, they try to help us figure out why and help us solve it, even if they're not contributing code. So it's been a really cool collection of people who have ultimately contributed to this project. And then, of course, through Spinster, I ended up getting connected with the people who are working on Over It. And so that's an amazing team of women developing that project, again, in collaboration with a larger open source community that includes both women and men.
What's Over It?
Yeah, so Over It is the space that popped up to fill the gap left when Our Gender Critical was banned from Reddit. So it's run by the former moderators of Our Gender Critical, and it contains circles, which are like subreddits, where the gender critical community can essentially come back after they were banned from Reddit.
Right, and so has that been possible? Has a lot of the material been posted now on Over It?
So there's less of like the old material getting transferred over. That was something that some women were trying to do, but it was a struggle because Reddit did not give the admins an archive when they banned them. So a lot of what's happening these days is just new content happening. You know, when a new event occurs, people talk about it on both sides, on Overit and Spinster. Overit's the more forum style, and Spinster is the more Twitter-like chat style.
Yeah. Have you found that by doing Spinster, do you think it's had an impact on how many women are banned, or how many gender critical voices are banned on Twitter and Facebook? Do you think that it's providing a sort of resistance that means they don't want to ban everyone?
I don't know if I can say that we've really had that sort of impact on Twitter, but one thing I will say is that when women get banned from Twitter, now they don't just disappear into a void. Now people know where to find them. I mean, the first place that you look when someone gets banned from Twitter now is on Spinster to see, well, do they have a Spinster? Because people don't want to lose touch. There's a woman who we've been mutually following each other on Twitter for a while now, and she mentioned that she was afraid that she was about to get banned. So she messaged me, can I get your email because I'm about to get banned? And I was like, let's chat on Spinster. And so now people know that they don't have to lose touch with the movement when they get banned from one of these platforms. They can find their sisters on Spinster. And Spinster is also, I think in a lot of ways, it's served as a different role from Twitter, because on Spinster, you can very quickly find a big connection of radical feminists or women in general from across the world who are interested in gender critical topics. And so you're in a little bit more of a space where you know people are on your team, at least within the local community on Spinster.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And how about 4w? What's that? And why did you set that up? Or I don't know if you set it up, but did you set it up?
I did, yes.
Yeah.
So 4w started out on Medium, which is a popular blogging platform for amateur bloggers mostly, but it's really grown to be one of the largest blogging platforms on the web. And I was writing on there. I had a few articles that were really popular. In particular, the article that got me fired from my job about non-binary identities was very popular on Medium. But I ended up getting banned from Medium, and my whole backlog of work was removed. But I saw this coming a little bit because I had seen other people getting banned from Medium. So prior to my ban, I set up 4w, which is 4w.pub. And it is a website where not only now do I host my own writing, but I've really expanded it to be able to provide a platform for women who are interested in writing about these topics, but can't get a platform anywhere else. For example, they can't be on Medium because they're going to get banned. Maybe they're not well-known journalists, so they can't get into some of these bigger publications that might give a platform to someone like Julie Bindel, who's amazing, but we're not all Julie Bindel, so we don't all get heard when we want to have our writing put out there. So now we pay our writers to contribute to 4w, and we have an amazing team of donors who makes that possible. So it's become just a place where women can have their voice heard on the internet if they want to write more of this long form sort of article, like well-researched blog type of content.
That's so good. And I think, is it right that you have joined the board of Wolf recently?
Not the board, no. I'm the communications fellow, a contract staff role.
Fantastic. So can you tell us about that and what you like about Wolf and what you're going to be doing with them?
Yeah, of course. So this is a really great opportunity to bring some of my communication work that I've been doing in terms of press and technology into an organization that has some resources to sort of support this capacity building I'm interested in doing in the movement. One thing that we recently launched was our media guide for journalists reporting on sex and gender. This was sort of my baby project for a while. And after being recently slandered in The Atlantic, who really I think could have used our media guide, I was especially motivated to do that. So that's just one project that I was able to work on with Wolf. And we're doing all sorts of other things in the new year. We're bringing on a big team of new people who are all really excited to get this organization, I think, really expanding our reach to have more of a modern impact on things like technology and on the media, and hitting where this censorship is really happening.
One of the things that looks, I mean, you're incredibly creative and effective and doing all these great things, but it's interesting that you're managing, or it looks as if you're managing to raise some money to resource some of these activities. And as we know, the trans rights activists and misogynists are very well funded by all sorts of, from all sorts of areas. How's that going? Do you think that this is going to really start working for us as a women's movement, that there are ways we can fund activities?
Yes, I think there absolutely are. I think that this is something that's really important, and I think it's hard to talk about sometimes because it's hard to ask people for money, especially other women, because we know how the position that a lot of women in this world are in, that they don't have resources to give a lot of time. And so that puts women just across the board in a disadvantaged position as far as resources. But we also know the resources that the trans lobby has. And so if we're going to fight them on equal footing, we need to bring as many resources as we can into this. And what I've seen is that when you provide a need for people, for example, they have a need to talk when they get banned on Twitter, or they have a need to share their article on a place where it won't be censored, or they have a need to connect with other women in a place where they feel safe. So if you're meeting a need, a lot of women who do have resources are willing to chip in to support that sort of community and space. I think it's really amazing. Something that I'm also really proud to see happening now is Sasha White, who was also recently fired for her gender critical views. She is creating a funding system that's essentially it's almost like insurance for if you get canceled. So people can donate monthly through their Patreon on her free speech fund. And then when someone gets canceled, they can essentially apply to have some of those resources redistributed to them. And so I think that there are lots of ways that we can creatively band together to get resources in this movement. And also, just to put it out there, I think that there are some donors who are thinking about these things, but aren't maybe sure where to put those dollars, or maybe they're not sure if they want to go against the liberal mainstream or like other progressive organizations. But I think that there are more people who agree with us than we necessarily see on the surface. And if we can channel that into resources that will, translate into capacity building for the movement, then I think that we can start to compete with the trans lobby at the scale that we need to.
Wow, that's so fantastic, so inspiring. So my final question is, sometimes when women make space or have organizations, or often men try to get into those organizations and destroy them or diss them, to attack them from outside. Have you had a lot of attacks on your activities, or are you so far, apart from being cancelled, but on the things you've been setting up, have they been attacked, or are they under the radar, do you think?
So it depends. When Spinster first launched, we got a ton of pushback and different forms of attacks. There was nothing particularly sophisticated, but we did have people who were trying to DDoS us, which essentially would be to shut down the website through hitting it with a lot of requests that we couldn't handle. But we could handle it because we were prepared. We've also had people who tried to attack by just coming in with trolls or being negative. For example, on Spinster, Spinster is not a woman-only space. We have 13,000 users and no way to really check the sex of all those people. But we do, it's a woman-first space, so everything there is prioritized around women. But it has open registration. And so we have people who on holidays and weekends might come on and just start spamming a bunch of, awful junk in order to try to be disruptive. But that's what moderators are for. And we're prepared for pretty much anything that they can throw at us. My other sites really haven't gotten a lot of attacks, 4w, Over It, etc. I think those tend to be under the radar, but I also think that if you are prepared going into it, if you know what the risks are, know what things you can do to mitigate those risks, there isn't really a lot that they can do with you. And so this is one thing I'm really passionate about, is helping women get their tech sort of under control and to understand these risks. So just to put it out there, always feel free to reach out to me if you have questions, if you're running a website of what do I do if we get hit with this sort of attack. I would love to help people answer those questions, because we can be more resilient than people think.